All right. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you all for being here as we stand in support of Bill 225, the Manitoba Public Schools Amendment Act for universal screening. As a parent and educator, I believe every child has a right to be taught to read within our public education system. Every child matters. Manitoba's curriculum is framed around the global competencies. Key skills like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. These skills are what we want every child to develop throughout their school years because they help students grow into active, democratic citizens who work together for the common good. Bill 225 is Bill 225 is an opportunity for our government to model these same skills. It invites leaders to communicate openly, think critically about amendments that would strengthen the bill, and collaborate across party lines to benefit all children. Children across Manitoba are watching this process and seeing how government works. When they see adults working together with respect and shared purpose, they learn that collaboration isn't just something we teach in the classrooms, it's something we live. By joining forces on Bill 225, our leaders can create a lasting legacy, one that safeguards every child's right to read and shows the next generation what it truly means to build a better, more hopeful future for everyone. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Natalie Riediger, and I'm an Associate Professor of Public Health Nutrition at the University of Manitoba, and I'm the mother of 2 wonderful children with dyslexia. We are here today because almost 13 years ago, the Supreme Court of Canada unanimously decided that learning to read was a human right. In that landmark case, Jeffrey Moore, a student with severe dyslexia in BC, was denied meaningful access to the supports he needed to learn to read. That case itself lasted 15 years. In that time, services and support for students with dyslexia have not improved. In fact, the situation in Manitoba is worse for students like Jeffrey than what he faced nearly 30 years ago. Most students with dyslexia in Manitoba remain invisible because they are never screened, identified, or diagnosed within schools. This is why Bill 225 universal screening is so important. The school system would prefer our children's reading difficulties to remain invisible. It's much harder to accommodate someone if you are never identified as having a difficulty to begin with. The lack of data is one indication that our kids and their needs don't count and don't matter. But I also know from experience, we access psychoeducational assessments outside the public school system, as well as evidence-based tutoring and now private school, when the public school system was unequipped, unprepared, and unwilling to accommodate. The Manitoba School Board Association has indicated that Manitoba students are already receiving assessments. However, many of these assessments are not valid or reliable, meaning they don't accurately assess the reading skills they intend to measure. In fact, many of the time-consuming, non-evidence-based assessments would no longer be necessary if evidence-based screening were implemented. While the Manitoba School Board Association is concerned about one-size-fits-all assessments, they should be concerned by the current choose-your-own-adventure model that perpetuates inequities between school divisions. The Manitoba School Board Association has also indicated that if parents have concerns about reading, they can contact their classroom teachers. However, Manitoba Education standards for appropriate educational programming indicate that school divisions must provide parents with the information they need to make informed decisions about their children's education. It is inappropriate to expect parents to become familiar with the psychometrics of reading assessments and runs directly counter to the principles of equity and inclusion. Not every child has a parent who can advocate for them or afford valid and reliable screening and assessments. Parents need to be able to trust schools and the information they are being provided. Unfortunately, trusting my children's school was the most harmful thing I could have done. Over 40 members of the dyslexia community and allies, many of whom are here today, showed up in support of Bill 225 on Dyslexia Awareness Day 4 committee. that the Minister of Education prepared her statement prior to hearing our stories on that day is government tokenizing at its worst. If the government is serious about anti-ableism, then failing to support Bill 225 is a big step backwards. The Minister of Education and education stakeholders can reject Bill 225, but cannot claim that decision is based on redundancy, evidence, inclusion, human rights, or a genuine concern for our children with dyslexia. On one of our long drives to tutoring after school one day with my son, he begrudgingly asked me, "Why can't I get tutoring at school?" I said, "I wish you could get this instruction at school too. I'm fighting really hard for you to get it. Sometimes life isn't fair and you need to try to change things. It's kind of like the trailblazers you've been learning about at school. I'm trying to be a trailblazer for kids with dyslexia." He said, "Like Rosa Parks?" He was really inspired at school by the story of Rosa Parks, and I said, "Yes, kind of like Rosa Parks. We're not getting off this bus."
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Gina Pagura, and I'm a pediatrician and parent of a once struggling reader. I am here today to urge the Manitoba government to take further steps to legislate universal screening for reading difficulties and disabilities. On the cusp of the release of the Manitoba Right to Read report, all Manitobans should be aware that our provincial literacy rates are extremely concerning. Less than 45% of children in grade 3 are meeting expectations for reading, and this percentage drops even lower among Indigenous children and children living in the North, 28% and 23% of whom are meeting expectations, respectively. Many children are struggling with reading and are not identified early due to a lack of universal evidence-based screening for learning difficulties and disabilities. The Committee for Bill 225 heard from numerous parents of children diagnosed with learning disabilities who have suffered as a result of delayed assessment and intervention in schools. At present, only those most fortunate who are able to afford costly assessment and interventions privately are getting the help they require. In my pediatric clinic, I see children on a daily basis who are struggling with learning and mental health concerns. I'm sure any of my colleagues would be happy to share their experience with the current mental health crisis in Manitoba's youth. There is ample evidence that struggling readers and those with learning disabilities are at higher risk of mental health problems. I see children and teenagers in my office with low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicidal ideation, many of whom have diagnosed and undiagnosed learning challenges. I send letters on a near daily basis to schools requesting formal psychoeducational assessments. The wait lists for these assessments are years long, if they are ever done at all. Identifying children who are struggling early using universal screening allows intervention to occur early enough to potentially prevent these issues. It decreases the need for expensive psychoeducational assessments, which are paid for out of government purses and parents' pockets. Universal screening would allow us to address one of the root causes of our youth mental health crisis, rather than focusing on treatment once these problems are well established. Pediatricians, speech-language therapists, and school psychologists are united in our support of evidence-based universal screening, instruction, and intervention. The Canadian Pediatric Society and Manitoba Pediatric Society have explicitly laid out these recommendations in position statements. School psychologists and speech-language therapists are a huge support to the dyslexia community and strongly support the issues we are discussing today. A group of speech-language therapists are here today and would be happy to answer any questions as well. Universal screening is equitable and ensures that we are moving towards closing the gap between children and families who can afford private screening and intervention and those who cannot, including many who are racialized, new immigrants, or those of lower socioeconomic status. Saying all children matter without action is meaningless. I urge our government to work across party lines and put words into action by legislating universal screening. Change can be difficult, and I recognize what we are asking of Manitoba's teachers, who are already doing an incredible job teaching and supporting students. However, we cannot let the fact that change is hard result in inaction. Teachers need the tools to pick up on their struggling learners and provide them with the instruction and intervention they need. Universal screening needs to be legislated so that we can move towards solutions rather than resistance. The Minister of Education's recent mandate for universal screening, while an initial step, does not show a long-term commitment to improving the state of literacy in our province. Legislating universal screening via Bill 225 will ensure a long-term commitment that cannot be easily reneged on with a change of government. This is the first step to improving literacy and subsequently health in our province. The next steps must include evidence-based instruction and intervention. This is necessary to ensure every child's right to read. At present, too many children are being left behind.
Hello, my name is Jacob Dick, and I know the government is trying to make this an official law, but that doesn't cut it. We need to go faster because kids are crying in their homes, and their parents are worried about their kids learning, and that we need to get this done faster.
Hello, my name is Blake Neufeld, and I am 9 years old in grade 4, and I figured out I had dyslexia at the end of grade 3, and it was really hard for me because I always had to be partnered up with lots of people, and I didn't get taught the right way, and it made my reading worse. And now I have to go to tutoring twice a week, and it was really hard because I felt really sad, and sometimes after school I came home and cried in my bed because I was so sad because I didn't know what to do. And I feel like now that I go to tutoring, it's helping. But if I would have got assessed earlier in kindergarten or grade 1, I would have been able to not go to tutoring this much, and I would have been able to do more fun stuff like sports and going to watch fun stuff, because sometimes we go to watch my cousins play volleyball, and now that I can't do as much because I have to go to tutoring twice a week.
That was incredible. If anyone, thank you for coming. Does anyone have any questions? We'd be happy to answer. Thank you. Oh yeah, Carrie Wood, Carriewood. Jina, she's a doctor. Pagura. Natalie, I'm going to need your help on yours. I'm sorry.
Natalie, Natalie, Riediger, Riediger. Jacob Dick, Jacobdyck. Blake Neufeld, Blakeneufeld.
Just a question. There was mention of the minister's mandates. What is that mandate? How does that compare to legislation as bill would pass?
Yes, the Manitoba government in the spring did say that they are mandating through a ministerial directive, I believe is what it's called, which is wonderful to get us started right away. Unfortunately, it's not a long-term commitment. So if a political party changed, or if in 2 years they decided this is too many parents asking us questions, they could just quietly stop doing it and it would go away. So the legislation is important to make it a lasting lifetime commitment for Manitoba children.
What kind of resources would be required to do this universal screening?
Ooh, what kind of resources we would need? Well, teachers need to be supported. I was at a conference today for Manitoba Teachers for Students with Learning Disabilities, and there were several hundred people joining online, and 140 people joined in person at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. And teachers are hungry and educators are hungry for this information. The resource we need is our system leaders to help support us so that teachers have the knowledge and the tools that they need to keep moving forward. Am I missing anything?
I guess I just wonder if this could be done with like existing staff.
Absolutely, absolutely. And de-implementation is a really important thing. Fontes and Pinnell takes a lot of time. That's a very common reading assessment that's used in Manitoba, and it's mandated in some divisions. That needs to stop. And if that stopped, then that would provide time to be able to do the screening. That wouldn't take away anything. It actually takes less time and gives us more valuable information. Yes, the report release is on October 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Franco-Manitoba Centre. Yeah. You know what? Can I let Gina or Natalie come and help me out here too?
I didn't hear the question. What was the question? What do you expect in the right to read report? What are you expecting? What do you hope is in there?
Thank you. Yes.
I think some of the core recommendations that we're expecting is universal screening. So this would be one of them. That's been in the other human rights reports in Saskatchewan and Ontario. Curriculum change to evidence-based structured literacy. A response to intervention model such that those students who are at risk of struggling that are identified through screening get what's referred to as Tier 2 intervention, so more intensive support before they struggle. So what is currently in place is called, or what's referred to as a wait to fail model, where children have to struggle for long periods of time before any support is given, and actually usually none is given. So the response to intervention model will allow kids to get support earlier. And then another core recommendation we expect will be teacher training, so that teachers come out of their Bachelor of Education knowing how to teach reading, using the evidence-based curriculum, know what screening is, how to do it. Did I miss
You did a
anything?
great job.
Audio and phonics is such a boring word. Like, phonics, I know I'm to write about this.
Yep.
My editor is 11 write about it for literally 5 years now. I wonder, can you maybe just demonstrate as a teacher what phonics looks like whether it's a word like related to literacy, something like that?
Oh, yeah. I could do read. I'll do the word read. So if we were going to segment the word read, I tell my kids, put your hand out, get your fists ready. We're going to say read, read. Simple as that. And it's very powerful, of course, to have the letters right in front of you as you're doing it. I just don't have my whiteboard or my magnetic letters.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, it's very well established within the scientific literature that phonics-based instruction is necessary, harmful for no one, and helpful for everyone.
So an example of what could be done once the issues are identified. Is that what phonics would use?
An explicit systematic phonics approach right from kindergarten benefits everybody, even our readers that are well above benchmark and are doing really well. It benefits them as well. Spelling is often a challenge even for fluent readers, and so universal screening and structured literacy will help identify that as well. And it's not just phonics.
There are other things that can be done.
Absolutely.
Comprehension?
Oh. Comprehension, vocabulary. There's the 5 pillars: comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, phonics, oral language fluency. There we go. Thank you.
I'd just like to add, structured literacy does often get mischaracterized
Yes.
as just about phonics, or that we are just pushing phonics, and that we are sometimes portrayed as anti-meaning. I can assure you, we are not anti-meaning. We understand that the purpose of reading is to get meaning, but children need to be able to get the words off the page, and that's very much a bottleneck, particularly for children with dyslexia.
So right now for parents, kind of the only way to find out is to ask specifically, ask a teacher to look into this. Is that right?
Yes, unfortunately.
But even in that case, and my son was an example of this, no problems were identified within school, whereas I could see the problems existed, obtained private assessment and intervention, and he's caught up. He doesn't have a learning disability, but my fear is that had he continued without the correct instruction, he probably would have ended up diagnosed with dyslexia somewhere down the road because his difficulties would have just compounded over time.
Probably all the kids behind you, all the teachers have probably told them they're fine, they're doing well, they're not at risk, they're not behind, and that's not the kids' experience then, because they are struggling.
And again, this is not to blame teachers, but this is the exact reason for universal screening with tools that are valid and reliable. They will give the teachers the tools they need to pick up on those difficulties and make sure that those children aren't missed, and then move towards getting the appropriate instruction in school.
So teachers would kind of be responsible for the screening?
In an ideal world, yes.
They're very short.
Yeah, classroom teachers would be able to do the screening. They're very short.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute.
Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes from door to door. Yeah. Is there anything else?
I guess I think Natalie mentioned like the choose your own adventure. I mean, are people seeking assessments outside of schools for dyslexia?
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. I meant choose your own adventure because every division is doing something different. And so some kids might get identified now in some divisions that are using evidence-based screening, and then there are children in other divisions who would not get captured because they're not using evidence-based screening. And so that creates inequities between divisions where we heard at the committee, a parent talking about 20 kilometers in one direction, they could get evidence-based instruction and screening, and 30 kilometers in the other direction, they could get evidence-based screening, but unfortunately they live in Selkirk. Maybe don't publish that.
Okay, so the government, this has gone through first and second reading, and it's gone to committee. Why do you suspect there's been a holdup in passing this bill?
I think they're politicizing it. Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is an issue that's become politicized instead of focusing on children's rights and well-being.
And just to be clear, you're all wearing red because it's the color for dyslexia, not the Manitoba Party.
No.
Correct.
No.
This is
Dyslexia.
October is Dyslexia Awareness Month.
Yes. And one thing about teachers, often they will see that a student is struggling and want to help, but don't have the resources or the knowledge to be able to do it, or the support from leadership within their school or school system. And that's why I really emphasize the importance of system leaders coming together to help move this right to read for all Manitoba children. Thank you. Woo!
Cindy, did you get a picture of everybody here? Yeah. Just put one.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
They didn't know where to look. Well,
Oh.
so serious.